for safe rooms to take drugs. 0207 862 2222 is the number to give us a ring. The UK's first ever clinic for safe drug consumption was used more than 130 times in its first week. The Thistle in Glasgow allows addicts to take their own drugs, including heroin and cocaine, in a safe and clean environment under the supervision of nursing staff. The aim is to reduce overdoses and help people with their addiction. And some users of the clinic have already engaged in housing and drug treatment support. So that's in a week. Scotland has the highest number of drug deaths in Europe, and there were record numbers in England and Wales as well in 2023. So do we need to see more of these rooms rolled out? People are taking drugs, James. Do we need to allow them to do it in a safe way so we're not going to see so many deaths?
This is so complicated because it raises a lot of social and health and legal issues. That there's a bit of me that, of course, understands that you don't want to see anybody overdose or to take drugs in an unsafe way. And if you can prevent deaths and you can help people through those sorts of campaigns, then I get it. But there's also a bit of me that says, hang on a second. So the second that that person is walking through the door, they've already broken the law. So you kind of have to ask the question, well, why is it that somebody elsewhere can break the law and they'll be arrested and prosecuted and dealt with in that way, and yet you come into a safe room, you've broken the law by buying the substance, you are part of and know that chain that we have to break somehow. And if you are going to get rid of the scourge, then this is kind of the symptom, and you've got to deal with the problem. And the problem ranges from addiction issues to mental health issues to housing issues to poverty issues to crime and drug issues to probably to immigration issues. I mean, you name it, you can plot and place them together. So I don't think that just creating safe rooms so that people can take it is going to deal with the problem of drugs on our streets and the tremendous social problems that it causes. But on the other hand, I do recognise that if you can reduce one death through having something like this, then I can see the argument.
But I just want to put that point to Nelufar, that actually in having these rooms in the first place, are we giving the wrong impression that drugs are almost acceptable? It's okay to take drugs?
They're safe rooms, not courtrooms. So whether it's a criminal activity or not, it's not the purpose of them.
I'm talking about the notion.
The main purpose of these rooms, essentially, is... So Glasgow itself, some areas of Glasgow have so many young people, vulnerable people, dying, overdosing, drug-related deaths, that it's highs across Europe, basically. And what these safe rooms, again, not courtrooms, are doing is they're allowing an interaction between the person who's using and authorities. So, for example, let's just say there's a bad batch of cocaine running around Glasgow. Well, these drugs often, you can test them. So you can test the drugs.
Interestingly, they're not doing that at this centre, which was something that I was going to bring up, because
Denmark,
if you're going
Canada,
to have these centres,
yes,
then that might be a good way of getting some insight into what's floating around. They're not doing that in Glasgow, so you would go further?
I would, because I've seen it in Canada. So I've been to Vancouver, I've seen the recovery centres and the drug safety centres there. Vancouver, by the way, I mean, just appalling amounts of people who are being put into poverty, being criminalised because of drugs. And James makes a good point about that. Like, these centres can often feel really egregious to us. It can feel wrong because essentially we're allowing people to sit there and harm themselves. There's a reason these drugs are illegal. However, and here's the key point, they reduce overdoses, they reduce comorbidities, for example, needle sharing or dying of any other blood disorders, yes. They reduce street usage, right? Who wants to go outside and see someone shoot up heroin or someone who's dozing off because of spice? So, in fact, what this room does, and I think they're brilliant, I think this is us actually taking a step in the right direction, because active addiction and drug taking is not a criminal problem. It's a social and health problem. And the more we tackle it in that way, I'm not saying we have to be lovey-dovey about it, we have to be bloody practical about it, and making sure police, hospitals and housing staff have access to these people in a place that they feel safe, that they can ask for help, is really, I'm just really proud of Glasgow. Well done.
OK, all right, stay with us. I'm happy. Gregory from Leicestershire, you've been waiting all break. Do let us know your thoughts on this.
Hi, everyone. So I'm actually a reformed addict. I've just celebrated 8 years clean in January.
Congratulations.
I'm a drug and alcohol worker. Thank you.
Well done.
But I'm a drug and alcohol worker as well, and I do the heroin and crack cocaine side of it. since these wet rooms have come about, there hasn't been a single fatal overdose. They are so good for things like this because essentially I heard the gentleman saying about the illegalities of it. They are essentially making criminals out of people who suffer from an illness. So why aren't they dealing with the illness rather than the illegality side of it? If they decriminalise the drugs and then open up these wet rooms, more people would get help. The harm minimisation would be amazing. It's that first point of contact that a lot of people don't often get. So it would bring them in, they could take it safely, less drugs and paraphernalia like needles, spoons and such in the local areas. They can be disposed of safely.
Just to pause you there, I get the benefits of having the drug safe room in terms of having less people die. When you say decriminalising drugs, are you talking about making it legal then to sell drugs?
No. So
decriminalising the consumption?
No. Decriminalising them, yes. So
okay. I just wanted to make that clear because
you would be treating an illness as opposed to the crime of it.
Because I would agree with you, Gregory, about treating the illness and knowing people as I do who've had all sorts of addiction problems. I agree with you. I think it's a really important distinction to make. But the difficulty that I think we all have, perhaps, on this is, well, how do you deal with the supply issue? Because the people who are growing it or making it or supplying it, they are always going to be breaking the law. And the question is, well, how do you break that chain? How do you stop that supply? Are you treating symptoms or causes, or do we need to have something that deals with both? Because if you said to me, safe rooms are a great idea, but then how do we then get the things off our streets in the first place? If you said we're going to tackle both at the same time, I get it. If you're just going to have safe rooms, I think it just encourages more or the same amount of use, doesn't it?
What do you think, Gregory? Gregory.
Okay, so I put this to people. If you have a 12-year-old girl who suffers from bulimia, it was her choice to put her fingers down her throat that first time. When it comes to drugs, it was their choice to take it, but you're not going to say to the girl, well, it was your choice. No, you would deal with that illness. The whole distribution side, we're now seeing a complete drop in opioid heroin, and we're now seeing a massive increase in fentanyl and nitazines. Nitazines are 100 times stronger than heroin. And this stuff is absolutely flooding our streets.
And I hear your concern with that.
We need these safe rooms because people...
I can absolutely hear your concern with that, Gregory.
4 people overdosed from 1 bag of heroin in our local area.
Gregory, I get that. They're not testing it, interestingly, which is, Nelufar and I have both said, seems to be a strange thing, because that would give more understanding of what's going on and what's actually in the local community. But I think what James is saying is dealing with the symptoms is fine as long as you're also dealing with the underlying cause. But it feels like perhaps if we open more of these, we would just be dealing with symptoms and ignoring the underlying cause, which is James's concern, I think.
Yeah, that is my concern. And I totally understand, you know, these issues that people talk about, and particularly with new substances that come along, and you know, the dangers associated. But I think if you don't tackle those causes, which range from, yes, the gangs and all this sort of stuff, but actually also the social and other problems arising, you're just going to end up in a cycle. Gregory, thank you for your call and your insight on that. Emma from London, what's your view on safe rooms for drug taking?
I've had foster sisters, I've had people that were in care and stuff.
Okay.
I've had to deal with stuff because they've had lives and stuff.
Emma, I think your line is really bad. I want to get back to you. It sounds like you've got a very interesting point. We might have to just put the phone down and call you back because you're dropping in and out. Thank you. Jill from Cornwall, when it comes to safe rooms, would you like one in your area?
No, I don't understand the thinking behind this at all. I mean, these are illegal drugs we're talking about.
Yes, but these are addicts.
But they are illegal. These drugs are illegal, and we're making rooms for them to go to in order to take illegal drugs, which means that we're saying it's okay to take illegal drugs.
Jill, can I hear you, and I know exactly how you feel, because I felt it too the first time that I saw one of these centres. It's just it's an odd feeling, but The number one drug that has the most comorbidity and co-mortalities in the UK is alcohol. And when someone is addicted to alcohol, we don't call them criminals because the drug, alcohol, is legal. We send them to treatment centres, or we might send them to rehab, or we might send them into hospital in the most acute need and care. There's no difference between...
Alcohol is not illegal.
That's right. So there's no
not.
difference between the ill person, the person that's addicted in active addiction. There's no difference between someone who's addicted to heroin and alcohol. The difference is the drug.
Yes,
the symptom is the same.
What you're saying is illegal drugs are okay to take because you can take them to this room somewhere and take them safely.
Can I?
No, I
I'm
think
actually
what the
saying
rooms are-
something.
hold on. I think what the rooms are saying,
we're
Jill,
giving-
is that addiction needs to be treated.
Yes.
I think that's what the rooms are
Yes.
saying, that actually we're going to say that the substance is irrelevant here. The person is suffering from an addiction and we need to help the person suffering from an addiction.
But creating rooms for these addicts to take their illegal drugs, that is just giving the okay to the people who find them, sell them, bring them into this country. That's giving them the okay to do that.
Jill, thank you
What
very
we're doing is
I totally understand your point. I think lots of people may feel the exact same way. Thank you very much, Jill, for your call. Patrick from London, what's your thoughts on this? I mean, London's somewhere that could maybe use one of these rooms.
Oh, what that call has just so annoyed me. Really has.
Go on, tell us why Jill's annoyed you.
But every Friday night in this country, people take their drugs, don't they? Their alcohol. I've been to rehab. And I've seen what alcohol does. I take heroin and crack, and I stick to that more than the alcohol. But it's saying it's illegal. It's illegal. So was same sex in the 60s and 70s. Laws changed. Same-sex marriages, I mean.
I'm hearing that maybe you might want a law change in terms of legalising all drugs. Some of the drugs you mentioned, they're obviously illegal. But what do you think about these safe rooms? Would it not only encourage people like yourself to do things that are not only illegal, but not good for you, Patrick?
A lot of things aren't good for but to have somewhere safe to go and use cleanly, and it'd be the first point of contact for a lot of us, and to engage and to get help. But the systemic thing about a lot of drug use, especially around heroin and crack, you find is abuse.
Correct.
Okay.
and
so
especially with men, and which a lot of us don't talk. A lot of people find it hard to talk about.
Patrick, if you're suffering from addiction, maybe you make your way up to Glasgow and actually speak to some of these people and see if there's resources that you can reach out to and get some help as well. Patrick, thank you very much for your call. I do wonder whether it would lead people into feeling that they are going into a safe place when actually there's no such thing as taking these drugs safely, particularly if they're not testing them beforehand and you are still taking a huge risk in it. Josephine from North Yorkshire, what's your view on safe rooms? Do you think it is just the compassionate thing to do?
Not really. I personally believe that the money would be better spent, allocated to local police forces to police the handling of drugs.
Doesn't work.
I mean, we have tried. We have tried to police
the
drugs.
The best way, Josephine, honestly, I mean this, statistically, you can look at it from every angle. The best way to stop the trafficking of drugs is to stop the end user. If you don't have a market, you can't sell your product. And every time that these people get access to hospitals, to care in these safe spaces, you have a chance of stopping a user, a buyer in this case. So there's so many things going for it.
I think it's interesting that it started in Glasgow when they had a huge problem with knife crime. They treated that as a social issue.
Yep.
And actually we've seen some really good results. Maybe that's what they're trying to do here. They take the drug issue, treat it as a social issue rather than a criminal issue, and they're hoping for good results. I think time will tell. Josephine, thank you for your call. Thank you to everybody getting in touch and sharing their experiences on that subject.